Satish Gujral was in a refugee camp in Lahore when he arrived.
I vividly recall everything graphically. There the refugees wanted to kill him. He was shocked. A man who grew up as the darling of the people was going to be killed by the same people. I had been in pro-Nehru fellow, but that evening I did not feel, because I thought for the leaders having been truly responsible for all this havoc. So I thought he was only harvesting what he had sowed. So that first time that day, I felt no reverence toward him.
In Lahore, there were now few Hindus left. Somanand and his father were among the last. In the weeks following partition, they came under attack from Muslim gangs seeking a religiously pure Lahore.
And it was free for all in the city. There was no one to check them. So they had come for that purpose, and somebody had given them our address and all that, and they came to kill us. But fortunately, we had a very narrow escape, and I was with a neighbor, with a Muslim neighbor, and they looted, they ransacked the house, took away all the clothes which they could use, all our shoes. And when our Muslim neighbor raised a hue and cry, they said, "We'll shoot you if you support the Kafirs."
It was too much even for Som and his father, who throughout the violence had held out the hope that they could stay on in the city of their birth.
Then we decided to go to Delhi straight away. Went to the airport and came to Delhi with our 2 clothes, nothing. We left in a plane. My father bought 2 tickets for Delhi. I saw our houses when the plane went up and flied over model town. I wept.
In Dillon's village, where the Muslims had been protected by his grandfather, the Indian army arrived one day and ordered the Muslims out.
It was a sort of very heavy moment. There were tearful departures and farewells. The Muslims left most of their assets and properties with their neighbors, thinking that they would be able to come again to pick those things up. Initially, the people felt very remorse about their going. But then, in a couple of days, sort of they try to occupy their homes. They try to take away whatever they had left.
In only a few months, India had been divided along religious lines. The Indian part of the Punjab was cleared of nearly all its Muslims, while Pakistan was emptied of most of its Sikhs and Hindus. Lahore, once one of the most mixed cities in all of India, was now home only to Muslims.
Gone was the cosmopolitan Lahore. Gone was liberal, tolerant, progressive Lahore, you see. But I think culturally, Lahore suffered, you see. It was a great city in those days. It was a great city in those days. With the passage of time, we became more conservative, more backward, more intolerant, more pseudo-Islamic, pseudo-Islamic.
I think the primary responsibility is of the Hindus who didn't treat the Muslims as their equals. That was the root cause. The Muslims and Hindus couldn't integrate despite living together for all these centuries.
With the partition over, the job was done for the few British troops still left in India. John Moores returned to Britain at the end of 1947.
I think the worst thing was that we couldn't stop the violence. The unnecessary cruelty is something which we didn't really know much about.
Mountbatten stayed on in India until the end of 1948 as its Governor-General. He returned to his career in the Navy, becoming First Sea Lord. He was killed by an IRA bomb in 1979.
The whole problem was that Mountbatten tried to do this job in too short a time. To expect a country to be partitioned, a new country to be created, and within 2 months move the portion of the government of India to Pakistan, and to move the troops to Pakistan and from Pakistan to India was a tremendous job. It cannot be done, and that's exactly what happened. Everything went out of control.
Satish Gujral, the art student from Lahore, became one of India's greatest painters.
This experience sank in me so deep after partition and began to paint without any consciously effort. This woman suffering, this brutality of man to man became my theme.
The border created in 1947 would become the focus for 3 wars and 60 years of animosity between the government of India and Pakistan. But for the people of the two countries, it was the tragedy of separation that lingered on.
I missed my friends. I couldn't understand why they had to go. Why were they pushed away? The only thing was that they were being pushed away. I knew they were not going happily, so I couldn't understand why. And I still think, why? What did anybody get out of it?
And on BBC 4 at 11 in Midnight's Grandchildren, 3 British teenagers travel to the Punjab to see how their families were affected by partition. Coming next here on BBC 2, Newsnight.
What's it really like to be British and Asian today? How has the independence of 60 years ago affected your life? Have your say. Asian Nation continues today on the BBC Asian Network.